Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to Week 11 of the Fantasy 15 podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Leighton Pip Shavantone.
I can't be confident, but I'm 99% sure Lex fell down a well and is trapped. Lassie is currently out looking for him.
Come on, Lassie. You're a good boy.
Lassie was a girl.
Lassie was a girl?
Her name was Lassie.
That's a guy's name.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
The guy's name is...
All dogs are good boys.
Okay, all dogs are good boys.
Yeah.
Regardless of gender.
All dogs go to heaven.
Actually, you know what?
All dogs are good boys.
Honestly, in 2018, I always speak for the dog's gender.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call it Lassie.
Yeah. That's up to Lassie to decide.
Lassie gets to decide her own gender.
Yeah, I agree. Good statement there, Leighton. All right, Dippers. Week 11, DFS. We have a full slate of games. We have some very good games. I think this is probably the best week of football games this whole entire season. I mean, they're loaded from top to bottom. Unfortunately, some of the games that cause the most interest are not going to be on the main slate that we're going to talk about. But we're going to run through, just like we normally do, tell you the higher-priced options, low-priced buys, and guys everywhere in between, all the way from your running back to your quarterback to your kicker. Oh, wait. FanDuel wised up and got rid of the kicker. Without further ado, Leighton C., you know what to do. Fantasy 15, a sauce on the side production. All right, Leighton C., let's start off hot and heavy. High-priced buys at the quarterback position. There are quite a few good options, but where are you going to go?
I'm going to the best option available, and that's Drew Brees. He's playing a Philadelphia defense that basically the entire secondary is hurt, and going to play hurt or not play at all. And plus he's playing in the dome. Drew Brees is just automatic in that dome right now, and that whole offense is clicking. And Drew Brees at age 39 is somehow playing the best football he's played ever.
Yeah, dude, I talk about this all the time with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks get into this weird spot where their body hasn't given up on them yet, but they are so advanced mentally in the sport, and that's where we're at with Drew Brees. Like, he's going to hit a cliff eventually, but let's ride it until it's hot. I mean, guys, we're talking about Drew Brees, $8,500. He is not even the most expensive quarterback on the board, but in the dome this season, he is averaging 347 yards per game, 3 touchdowns. That is 27 fantasy points. In fact, he is putting up 7 more fantasy points per game than what their opponent's average is. The Eagles are giving up the 7th most fantasy points on this slate, 22 points per game in their last 3. I see Drew Brees as a floor of 25 points. I think he's going to knock it out of the park. In fact, I think he's going to go much higher than that, but I'm just giving you his floor. Cheap price quarterbacks. Leighton, I think I'm going to go bold. I think I'm going to make old Patrick Shavantone happy with this week. But where are you going?
Well, I figured that's where you would go and somewhere else. I'm going straight to Drew Brees' foe across the field and Carson Wentz. He's throwing the ball a ton, and quite frankly, Jake, he's back. Since week 6, his 4th start of the season, he completed 74% of his passes at 10 touchdowns, only 2 picks. Almost 1,500 yards in those games. So kind of like we saw in the offense last year, he was throwing a lot of touchdowns on not that many throws, or had 100 completions, 10 touchdowns. He's doing it again, and this weekend he'll have to throw the ball a lot.
Yeah, I agree, especially with that run game kind of laxing down, and they really don't have that goal line threat anymore. He's going to have to throw the ball on the goal line just for them to score. And with the Saints having that awesome run defense, which is kind of surprising, I really do like Carson Wentz. But I am going with the 3rd cheapest quarterback on the slate this week. I am going all the way down to Eli Manning. Guys, I'm getting bold. $6,700. I'm going to surprise you a little bit with Eli Manning. He's had an either-or game every game this season. He's either going out and throwing for a ton of yards, no touchdowns, or he's going out and throwing for touchdowns with absolutely no yards. In his last 5 games, Eli Manning has had 280 yards or 3 touchdowns. So think about that for a minute. A guy that we have been dogging all season, he has had either 280 yards or 3 touchdowns in his last 5 games. He's the 3rd cheapest quarterback, like I said, on the slate. the bubble bursts this week. He is averaging 300 yards over his last 5 weeks, 1.75 touchdowns over the last 5 weeks. He's going to eclipse those averages, and he's going to go north of that on both. I see Eli Manning getting his first 22-point game of the season. I think it'll be higher than that, just for the fact that they're playing the third worst defense against the pass. The Buccaneers, they're terrible. We've exploited them all year, and we're going back to the well. The Giants can't stop anybody. The Buccaneers can't stop anybody. I think this is going to be a very, very terrible shootout, but I see Eli Manning getting his fantasy point. All right, Leighton C. High-priced running backs. In fact, I think I'm only in love with the high-priced running backs this week, which is going to make it harder at other positions. That's basically why I gave you Eli Manning right off the top. Leighton C. Cheap running backs, where are we looking?
Well, cheap running backs are going nowhere. But expensive running backs. This is a guy that I think will be underplayed for no reason really. That's Melvin Gordon. He's 8,700 at home against the Broncos. The Broncos have the 10th worst rushing D in the entire league. Over the past 3 games, Melvin Gordon is averaging 6.5 yards per carry on 52 carries. And over the same 3 games, he has 9 total touchdowns. Jake, you're good at math. What's 9 divided by 3?
3.
3. Over the last 3 games, he's averaging 3 touchdowns a game.
Wow.
So he's hot. He's looking best he has his entire career right now. I like Melvin Gordon in this spot. I feel he's going to be low owned and a great way to get value.
I absolutely agree with you. I really do. I do like Melvin Gordon, but I think I'm going to try to fade the top 3 running backs on this slate. I really do, because I think that the value is kind of right there on the outside looking in. I'm going Ezekiel Elliott. Guys, he's 8,400. Coming into this season, Zeke averaged 1 touchdown per game in his career. This season, he's only scoring 2 touchdowns every 3 games. And he's still averaging 17.8 fantasy points. Like, that is an absurd amount of fantasy points for the low amount of touchdowns. And in 2 games with Amari Cooper on the field helping open up run lanes, Zeke is averaging 5.8 yards per carry. He's playing a Falcons team that's giving up 4.9 yards per carry, that just gave up 191 yards to the Cleveland Browns. They're also very, very bad against... I think they're, in fact, the worst team on the slate against running backs. I expect Zeke to go north of 100 yards rushing, and I expect him to also get a score. I'm going to say Zeke's going to get 2 scores in this game. I'm really feeling that bold because, water always finds its level, and Zeke Elliott is better than, 2 touchdowns every 3 games. So I'm penciling Zeke in for a monster game. I don't know if he's going to do what he did last week against the Eagles, but I think he's going to come pretty close. Also, I'm going to throw this in here. DJ kind of had his breakout game last week. I think everybody and their brother is going to be on him this week. He's 7,900, takes on Oakland, 4 straight games, 114 yards. They've given up 150 rush yards per game over their last 4. I think DJ is an absolute home run pick this week. So, cheap running backs, Leighton C. I don't love anything here, but do you like anything?
I like Dion Lewis. He's 5,900. He's going to get you touching at 20 carries last week. And then there's cat over in Philadelphia named Josh Adams. He's 4,500. And you kind of taking over Jerry Jeudy's role in the offense is kind of the lead power back with Small with Clement be more passing down back. How much do you trust Josh Adams against that stellar Saints defense, though? I don't trust him a ton, but for 4,500, I think they'll have to have him at least a couple times.
Yeah, I do agree. I think I'm going to have a sprinkle of Josh Adams in there a little bit, but I'm not going to go overboard. Like, usually whenever we get guys that we like at 4,500, we're just like, hammer lock, play them everywhere. These guys are going to break loose. Josh Adams, all he has to do is fall into the end zone. He's going to hit value. Yeah. Like, that's all he has to do. And he's gotten 8 carries a game over his last 2, so he's going to get some carries. I just don't know if I trust him against that Saints D. In fact, as far as cheap running backs, I think I agree with you. Dion Lewis is the only guy I really even like. He's going to touch the ball 20 times per game. He's had 10 fantasy points per game with only 2 touchdowns on the season. And the thing that makes me like him the most out of the rest of them is that the Colts have given up the 4th most receiving yards to running backs in the NFL. Not even on this slate, just in the NFL. And if you know anything about the Titans, the only guy who's going to see the ball in the air is Dion Lewis. So if you expect the Colts to kind of jump up on them early and force the Titans to have to play that into that game flow and throw the ball more often, Dion Lewis will be your guy there. expensive wide receivers. There's quite a few guys that I'm like absolutely in love with.
Yeah.
Not just alike. I am in love
Yeah.
with quite a few of these expensive wide receivers. Where are you going?
It's unfortunate how much I love these guys. I not be able to play any of them. I got paid freaking
Don't tell me Julio.
$8,500 for a running back.
Don't tell me Julio.
Why?
I hate Julio this week.
Yeah, I'll get that later though. But Michael Thomas, I love Michael Thomas.
Okay.
He's the best player on the board. But I don't know how I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna figure it out. It's gonna be really tough. The whole secondary here in Philadelphia this season, 9 passes that has gone his way and fallen incomplete.
And that's 9 out of his 9 targets have fallen incomplete. Guys, that even includes like balls that are just thrown away in his direction.
Yeah, and this isn't like, oh, he only had 18 catches. No, he has 78 catches, 950 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Almost as many touchdowns as incompletions. It's insane. I'm going to find a way to play him. I'm going to figure it out. He's the top player on the board.
See, I think the number 1 wide receiver this week is going to be OBJ. I think Eli Manning's going to hit rhythm this week. I think OBJ, he's 8,500. He's priced outside of the top 4. Actually, he's priced 4th along with Antonio Brown, who has a pretty tough matchup. OBJ, if I love Eli, I have to be absolutely in love with OBJ. Double-digit targets in all but 1 game this season. That came in week 2, and he saw 9 targets. 3 games of 130 yards in his last 5, and in every single game that OBJ has been held under 100 yards this season, which has been 4 games, but we can only count 3 for this statistic. He's responded with 100 yards. In fact, he comes in with 127 yards per game following a week that he's held under 100 yards. Last week had awesome fantasy production, but he was also held under 100 yards. The Bucs secondary is atrocious. They've had 12 guys this season. 12 players from the other team go for 94 yards or more through the air. Guys, they've only played 9 games. If OBJ's next on the list to hit that, and they've also played only 9 games, they've given up 10 100-yard receiving performances, and that includes Vance McDonald. So if you think OBJ, if there's ever a time to play him, it's this week. The Bucs have given up 23 passing touchdowns and 10 100-yard performances from wide receivers. You have to love it. You have to be in love with it. So we talked about the high-priced guys. I also sprinkle in some DeAndre Hopkins. Don't be scared of Josh Norman treatment, guys. Josh Norman got benched in the middle of a game this season. He's not the same guy he was last year. I know he had the pick, but it's not the same Josh Norman. I think Nook's going to have his way. Latency, cheap wide receivers, where are you going?
Amari Cooper. I know Jake and I'm a big fan of this guy, but my boys say he is talented, and he has looked really good since he came to Dallas. And since he came to Dallas, only 7 players in the NFL have seen more balls come his way. They want to make a focal point of the offense. He played pretty good at focal point of the offense, and I can only see it going up as season goes on, and they keep saying, hey, Dak, in a tight spot, throw it to number 19. Which is probably a really good number for him to have, number 19.
Yeah, it is weird.
Like, when I first saw it, I couldn't really get used to it, but he's number 19 now.
Yeah, I don't hate Amari Cooper. I like him a lot more in Dallas than what I did in Oakland, because now it seems like you have Jerry Jones sitting up in the booth like, hey, I got you this guy, feed him. And it seems to be that way. He scares the hell out of me if he goes over 5 yards on a round. Like, really, he scares the hell out of me because he's not going to get open. Cheap wide receivers, I'm going all the way down to 5,400 with John Brown. Over 7 targets per game, and he draws to the Bengals defense that has allowed nearly 220 yards to receivers over their last 6. And that's only on 14.8 receptions per game. That is nearly 15 yards per reception. They get throttled deep, and the one guy who can catch a dagger on this Ravens team is John Brown. Now, if Flacco has to miss this game, which I'm unsure of if he's going to play or not, I feel like he'll roll out there in a wheelchair before he lets Lamar Jackson touch the field. If Flacco's out, wipe this out. Do not play this, because I only like it if Flacco's there, because Flacco has the ability to uncork a deep ball and John Brown to run underneath it. Another play I actually really like at 6,400 is Kenny Golladay. Guys, Golden Tate is no longer there. This guy saw 13 targets last week against the Bears. He only had 16 fantasy points to show for it, but he was also playing against the Bears. He's playing Carolina, who's kind of had some holes in the secondary basically all season. And if he's going to get 13 targets in a game, you have to love it at 6,600. So Leighton, tight end, we do tight end a little different. We don't go high price, low price. We just give you the best options because, guys, tight end picking is slim on a week-to-week basis. But where are you going this week?
Well, here it is. The reason I can't play Michael Thomas, because I have to play Zach Ertz. He's 7,600, but he's literally the only tight end you can count on to just hopefully get a touchdown.
Yes.
Oh, since week 6, which is his full start, he had 352 yards, 34 receptions, and 4 touchdowns. Touchdown a game. He had a monster game last week, and he can't go into the Superdome. Other than him, I like O.J. Howard, still risky. I like Jared Cook, still risky, kind of know what the Oakland offense does. So, I'm going to have a lot of Zach Ertz, but it's going to hurt me at wide receiver position.
Yeah, I agree. Zach Ertz makes things very tough for the remainder of the slate just because I'm in love with him. Don't get cute. Guys, there are 5 players in the NFL this season that have had over 100 targets. 5 players. Jarvis Landry, which I don't even know how. I mean, he's producing at a terrible level for being the lead leaguer of targets. Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham Jr., and Zach Ertz. Since Wentz's return, he's had 4 games over 100 yards. Guys, that is a rarity for tight end position. And his worst fantasy day is 9.8. I know what you're going to look at. You're going to go straight to the stats. Saints versus tight end. They've been awesome. They have been killer. But they don't necessarily use Zach Ertz as your model tight end. Like, he's more of a prototype guy. The Saints really haven't played any high-level tight ends. So I am really big on Zach Ertz this week. I think he's going to draw double-digit targets just like he has in almost every single game this season. And he's going to produce at a high level. He is the best receiving option on this team. It'll become apparent early and often. I am in love with Zach Ertz. Latency, defense. We don't get any team playing the Bills, unfortunately, which, you know, if Matt Barkley is quarterback, that changes things.
Evidently,
because we got our teeth raked. We got our teeth raked. I played the Jets everywhere, and the Jets couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't even stop the left tackle from the Bills from scoring a touchdown. Latency, defense, where are you going?
Well, just to be fair, I doubt, in fact, the Todd Bowles had any play with a left tackle caught a touchdown pass.
No, but they had definitely practiced against a 300-pounder catching a tight end against him, or catching a touchdown, because, I mean, they had to scheme for Kelvin Benjamin.
That's true. But for defense this week, it's really weird. Because only 14 above $4,000.
It's super
and
weird.
I don't love any of those defenses. So I'm going to go Arizona Cardinals. They're playing Oakland at home. I actually, last week, what the Oakland offense was, not as a joke, actually want to know. Well, this past week they scored 3 points. Doug Martin can't run the ball. Derek Carr can't throw the ball. They can't do anything. I think at $4,000, the Cardinals might not just be the safest play, but the best overall play on the board.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think the Cardinals are the safest play, guys. You look at Oakland, they've given up 18 sacks in the last 4 games, and that includes playing a team in the Colts who didn't even touch Derek Carr once because they absolutely have no pass rush. So basically 18 sacks in the last 3 games where there's a team who could potentially even sack Derek Carr. So I'm looking at Arizona. They're coming in with 4 sacks in 5 of their last 6, and they sacked Patrick Mahomes 5 times last week. So I know at the beginning of the season, I was actually I was kind of starting to dig this Cardinals defense because I think they're a lot better than what people give them credit for. And I think that they're just going to completely shut down the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have been absolutely abysmal this season. I think back-to-back weeks of 3 points. So, I mean, even if the Cardinals double their score and get 6 points this week, you know, or the Raiders score 6 points this week, the Cardinals still finish with a phenomenal day of fantasy. So, Leighton, big money flops. These are guys that we see at the top of the pricing that we think are going to fall short of expectations. Take it away. Who do you absolutely do not want to touch this week?
Number 1 guy I'm not touching is Julio Jones. I was surprised, but I know he's his second wide receiver. Byron Jones, his shadows, is allowing only 0.88 yards per route. So for that reason, I do not like Julio Jones. For that reason, I love Calvin Ridley. I also don't like Leonard Fournette. Got this last week, but the Jaguars are playing uninspired football. Not sure how healthy Fournette is. And Joe Mixon, going against Baltimore, Joe Mixon's a great talent, but Cincinnati's going to be a mess around for AJ Green. I don't trust him going against the Baltimore defense.
Yeah, playing offensive players against Dallas has been really scary lately because Dallas has actually looked pretty good on defense, which has been a huge hole of theirs as of late. I'm not going to touch Cam Newton at 8,600. There are too many good options at quarterback for me to go out there and just take the chalk at the quarterback position with Cam, who's not even going to outscore Drew Brees this week. At running back, Philly has made a living off of their front seven over the past 2 years, and I know they got thrashed by Zeke last week, but I don't think that this is the team that they are. I don't think I'm going to touch Kamara. I know he's been a touchdown machine as of late, but that Philly secondary is so banged up that I think that they're going to score most of their points through the air, over the top to Michael Thomas and other playmakers in that sort. In Kamara, you look at Kamara compared to Zeke Elliott, like he's more expensive, and Zeke Elliott is probably going to have similar production. So I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch Saquon Barkley. I know he's been a stud, but Tampa Bay, they are basically the same type of defense that Philly is. They're going to get beat over the top. They're not going to let you beat them through the trenches. So I'm really going to stay away from that. Julio Jones, not touching him. Wide receivers have not been playing, especially number one wide receivers. Number one wide receivers have fallen short against Dallas. In fact, they actually held OBJ under 100 yards. So if you don't like OBJ against Dallas, you can't like Julio. I think that there's a lot of guys that are up at the top that could fall short. Antonio Brown is another one. I know the Jags have been abysmal this season on defense, but at some point water finds its level and they will start shutting guys down. So I think that I feel like the only guys that we've talked about that are at the top, I think we've hit all of them that are going to exceed expectations.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're to that point now.
So we kind of talked about the guys that are going to flop at the top. Go ahead. We're going to run through some meat studs this week. Guys that we see at the quarterback position going over 30, and skill players that are going to go over 20.
Basically, maybe we said it already, but my favorite play of the entire week for FanDuel is T.Y. Hilton, 6,800. Several not so great games in a row now, but this week he's going up against Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler, remember the Super Bowl? People thought he was disciplined? No. Might just be because he sucks. I love to Hill this week. He is my top play of the entire FanDuel slate. Number one. Other than McCaffrey, Elliott, David Johnson, but I think a lot of my lives could be centric around having Zach Ertz in there and T.Y. Hilton and see anything else falls.
Yeah, I actually do kind of like T.Y. I think a lot of people are going to look at the how good Tennessee's defense has been of late and kind of forget that Malcolm Butler gets dusted almost every other play. I think last week was kind of that outlier week where Malcolm Butler had a little chip on his shoulder and he felt like there was a little something extra going into that. And guys who have to roll out and do their job every day, whenever you put a little something special in there, they're going to perform up over expectations. I think the only quarterback, though, this week that's going over 30 is Drew Brees. I think that he is basically your only meat stud at the quarterback position on this slate. I think Eli Manning's going to have a fine day, but Drew Brees is your only guy that's going to have the potential to go over 30. At the running back position, I see Christian McCaffrey going over 30 this week. He's playing Detroit. I know they've been a little better against the run. They held the Bears in check against the run last week. But it was a week that, everything was open over the top for the Bears. I don't see it going to be the same thing for the Panthers, being able to throw over the top of that defense. And McCaffrey has been a touchdown machine as of late. Ezekiel Elliott, he's another guy that I think could easily go over 20 this week and flirt with that 30 mark, which we even set for quarterbacks. I think David Johnson is also going to... I think David Johnson's a home run to get over 20. Yeah. I really do, because I think they're going to be playing from ahead almost the entire game. From the wide receiver position, meat stud alert, has to be DeAndre Hopkins for me, Antonio Brown, and I do like Julio. I do like T.Y. because T.Y. always has those signature games. He has 3 or 4 a year where he's going to go over 100, get you a couple scores. And at the tight end position, I see Zach Ertz being the only guy that you can even send up a prayer for to get you 20 points this week. So unfortunately, Lex is not here to give you your meat stud stack of the week. But I think a stack of the week, dude, is Eli Manning OBJ.
Do you think so?
I do.
So yeah, I'm going to lean towards Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz.
I do like both of those, but for the price, man. I mean,
The plus how much does OBJ cost?
OBJ, he's 8,400, I believe.
Okay. It's going to be about the same price.
Yeah, he's 8,500. Yeah, it'll be pretty similar in price, but I mean, I would rather get a sprinkle of. I would rather open up money at the quarterback position than go cheap on a wide receiver later. And in fact, my Meat Studs lineup of the week includes Eli Manning. I think that if you get a quarterback at 6,700 and he does have the potential to have his way with the other team, I think that you have to lock him in. I'm going to play Eli Manning probably close to 50% of my lineups, which might be my biggest gamble of the whole entire season outside of Mitch Trubisky against the Bucs, and that paid off just fine. And at the running back position, I'm going David Johnson. Oakland has been terrible against the run as of late. David Johnson had the best week of the season last week, and I see him being able to build on that under the new offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich. My second running back position, obviously Ezekiel Elliott. I've told you 100 reasons why I love him, and I think that they're going to get the run going early and often because that is basically their only route to victory in beating the Falcons. OBJ, stacking him with Eli Manning. I think this is probably the stack of the week, Eli and OBJ. They're a very good price, and I think you have to jump all over it because OBJ will bounce back with a 100-yard game. Then I'm going John Brown. I told you that the Bengals secondary, they are susceptible to the big play. I see John Brown at least getting that one catch that is going to seal the deal for you. He's the most likely to get a dagger. If Flacco doesn't play, I don't like John Brown. Third wide receiver. Guys, this is just a pure gut pick. This is like 100% just a gut pick. Demaryius Thomas. I don't know why, but I think he's going to score for the first time this season. Guys, so whenever they started the last game against the Broncos, in the first quarter, he had 3 catches for 61 yards. Didn't really do much after that because I think that he had a set of plays that he knew well, and they paid off really, really good, but they used them all up early. Now that he has more time with the bye week, being able to get into that offense a little more, I think that the only way that the Texans are going to be able to beat the Redskins is over the top. And Demaryius Thomas, I like him. I'm not going to say I like him as much as I like DeAndre Hopkins, but for 5,600, a guy who had 3 catches for 60 yards in his first quarter with a new team, you have to love it. Then I'm going back to Zach Ertz. I'm playing in the chalk here. This is an obvious one. I mean, he's playing the Saints in the Dome. They're going to have to keep up with a lot of points. He's going to get double-digit targets. Then at the flex position, I'm actually going to go with Dion Lewis. He's 5,900. And, you know, I said I like him, but I don't love him. But anytime I'm going to get a running back that's, you know, has the potential to break a big play at almost any point of the game, and he's getting 20 touches a game, you have to be big on that. So I'm going with Dion Lewis to kind of have a bounce back week from last week. Last week, the Patriots kept him in check, and he seemed like that was the Patriots' defense's main staple of the whole game was to shut Dion Lewis down. I think he's going to find some more room to run against the Colts, especially kind of in the pass game, getting worked in there. And then the Cardinals' defense, I think that's the obvious pick for the week at the defensive position. And I think I'm going to play the Cardinals just about as close to all around the board as I can because there's really no defenses that I absolutely love. So last week, we actually got to see Golden Tate start to get worked into the Eagles' offense. Does that scare you at all, playing Zach Ertz so much?
Not to use Golden Tate they used him last week, which was out wide again. I think he got 2 catches on only 3 or 4 targets.
Yeah, and I think one of them was off of the plays that he got the ball in his hands was off a hook and ladder.
Yeah, I can't figure out why teams don't look at Golden Tate. Okay, you're a slot receiver, and you'll be a really damn good one. Right?
Yeah, like there's no shame in being a really, really good slot receiver. Like just let him run a drag route across the middle.
Yeah, like if I had Golden Tate, he would do literally 3 routes. He'd run a seam, he would run a slant, and run a drag all from the slot position.
Yes, I agree with you. And it just last week, how many times did I say, why is Golden Tate not on the field just running a drag? I mean, make the other team respect it. We saw 3 wide receivers be successful in Detroit with basically all Golden Tate did was run a drag and open things up for Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones just basically streaking down the field.
If you look at the Eagles' offense from the pattern standpoint, they basically have two, medium. Basically, no, they have three medium range to deep threats in Aguilar, Jeffrey, and Ertz. They don't have a real quick short yardage guy that's not a back out of the backfield. Golden Tate can be that. He's better than Aguilar. Like, why don't they put him in the fucking slot and let him do things?
Yeah,
it could be awesome.
With a ton of guys on bye weeks this week, do you I look at the Ravens and I know that wide receivers are going to explode. Like, somebody on that team is going to go off. If you're a team with a backup against the wall needing a flyer of a wide receiver, are you okay with playing any of the three wide receivers, Snead, Brown, or Crabtree?
I'm going to avoid it if I can, because like you said, they all get basically the exact same target share, and none of them do a whole lot with it. If I can avoid it, I will. Because basically what you're hoping for is one guy catches, 4 or 8 passes and gets a touchdown. But there's no way to tell who's that's going to be on a week-to-week basis. So I'm going to try to look elsewhere. If not, I'll probably go, Crabtree, John Brown, Snead in that order.
Yeah. I really like Brown. I don't know why, but I think Brown's the...
I like Brown a lot earlier this season, and then he gets the same amount of targets, he just stopped catching them.
Yeah, I think that had to do with Flacco. I'm not going to blame any of Flacco's wide receivers. I'm just going to blame Flacco. I think that's the easiest way to go. So Flacco misses this week. Are you comfortable starting Lamar Jackson?
The Bengals? Yes, I'm gonna start. Yeah, I'll start Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I'll start him at least once.
Yeah.
And did you notice that their pricing, they actually fixed him to where he's not $6,000?
Yeah, he's $7,000, unfortunately. Honestly, contrary to what you said earlier, I think I like John Brown more if Lamar Jackson plays.
You do?
I do. Because Joe Flacco, like you said, has looked really bad. And John Brown, I don't know how much he touched really Snead, but I feel like Crabtree and John Brown are going to be Lamar's big guys.
Yeah, and honestly, I could see that. I really could, kind of with like him being able to buy more time with his legs to be able to get John Brown open down the field. He just scares the hell out of me with his accuracy. Like, I am not sure how accurate he is. Like, he could be the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, but like, for some reason, whenever I watched him in college, like, I just didn't trust him.
He just throws really hard.
Yeah, it seems like he almost overthrows, which is something that they could fix at the NFL level. I think that as far as like for season-long fantasy, I think that basically just kind of answers all my questions. Do you have anything for season-long fantasy? We just got the news that Le'Veon Bell will not be playing this season, so a lot of people basically spent a first-round pick on nothing, or they got James Conner super late and look like geniuses. Do you think, if you're in a keeper league, what is the threshold of running back that you're willing to give up for Le'Veon Bell? RB1. So you'd give up an RB1 for him?
Yeah, if you know you can't make the playoffs, you can get him back and a pick or something for next year. I'd give RB1 for him.
Yeah. Would you give up? Let's say you're primed to make the playoffs, but you're in a keeper league. Would you give up, let's say, a threshold of like Marlon Mack or Kenyon Drake? Would you give up one of those guys for Le'Veon?
Yes.
Even if they're starting?
Okay, wait, hold on. Did you ask me if you were in the playoffs?
If you're going to be making the playoffs, do you think you would?
No, not if you need the guy to play.
Okay.
You can't do that.
Okay. Yeah, there's probably a lot of people that are in that predicament where they look at Le'Veon Bell and they're like, well, I could go get him, but, I just don't know how much I would be willing to give up, especially because you have no idea where he's going to be playing next season.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the RB1s right now. Like a little Fournette, who's been hurt all season and can still linger on. The team's playing bad. He's not playing good when he is healthy. I'd trade him if I'm out to play a full Le'Veon Bell, keep him up for next season. Because, the system helped Le'Veon Bell, but I do think Le'Veon Bell is a generational talent.
Yeah, I do too. I think anywhere from like the 12 on range, I think I'd be willing to part ways for a Le'Veon Bell, even without knowing where he's going to play next season, even if I'm in the playoffs, and try to just kind of salvage whatever you have. Because obviously, if you're in the playoffs this year, you should be back in the same position if you're in a keeper league for next year. That's one of the big questions I think a lot of people are going to have, as trade deadlines kind of wrap up here. Anything else, Latency?
Season-long leagues, we're to the point now where it's more valuable to have a guy who never plays a snap on your bench, the guy who does, that means handcuffs, So you have a player with a clear handcuff, Steven Ridley to James Conner, Brown to Gurley. We haven't really have one, but anything like that, Hyde to Fournette. Go get the handcuff off the waiver wire because that guy goes down in your playoff hunt. You don't want to be shit out of luck. And sometimes you'll lose a beat like Austin Eckler, not as good as Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon goes down, Eckler's guaranteed to produce for you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That is one of the ultimate pro tips that you can have going into the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, and go add Josh Downs if you can, because might as well add a guy who can get carries into that zone.
Yeah, I agree with you. And on that note, for Drake, for Leighton C, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.